Hey, welcome back to my studio. Today I want to show you how to put together this PVC pipe balloon garland stand, as well as this luscious garland to go inside of it. So to start off, you're going to need 4 half-inch Schedule 40 PVC pipes that are 10 feet long. And I'll be using a tape measure, a permanent marker, as well as a pipe cutter to get all of my lengths cut to size. From each of these 4 pipes, we're going to cut one 60-inch piece, one 36-inch piece, and one 24-inch piece. So to start off, I'm going to measure 60 inches and mark that with my permanent marker, and then go in with the pipe cutter and cut right on that mark, making sure I keep the pipe cutter nice and square so my ends are really clean. Set the 60-inch pipe aside, and then from the remaining pipe, I'm going to measure 36 inches from the end that I just cut, mark it, and cut it with the PVC pipe cutters. Now, you should end up having 24 inches left after we've finished cutting this 36-inch piece. But even though the pipes are advertised as being 10 feet long, they're not exactly 10 feet. So always make sure you measure each piece, because even though I've measured 24 inches, which is what should be left at the end of this pipe, there's actually about a ½ inch longer than that. I'm going to repeat these 3 cuts on each of my 10-foot pipes, and after making all those cuts, each of them had a slightly different size cut off from the end. So in total, you should have 4 60-inch pieces, 4 36-inch pieces, and 4 24-inch pieces out of our ½ inch pipe. Now I'm going to take a little bit of 00 steel wool and go over all the surfaces of my pipes so that the spray paint will adhere much easier to our PVC. I'm not worried about trying to remove the text from the pipe. Since I'll be using black spray paint, it'll cover over the top of the text really easily. But if you're going to be painting yours with a light colored spray paint, you may want to go over your pipe with some acetone to remove the print so it doesn't accidentally show through. So once I've gone over all my PVC pipes with my steel wool and they're nice and smooth, I'm going to go over all of them with a damp paper towel or a damp washcloth to remove any residue left over from the steel wool or any dirt or debris that was stuck to the pipe, because these PVC pipes tend to be really dirty when you get them from the hardware store. The most important piece to this build are these ½ inch 3-way PVC pipe fittings. Now I couldn't find these at my local hardware store, so I had to order these off Amazon in bulk so I could get enough of them for this project. You need 8 of these in total to build today's stand, and it was much cheaper to buy them in a pack of 20 than to buy the pack of 4, so I can get 2 stands out of this one bag that I purchased, and I'll leave it linked in the description box below. Now I'm going to go over all of these with my satin black spray paint, making sure I go over all the pieces in light coats and getting in all the nooks and crannies, making sure I'm especially getting the very rim of all those openings, as they'll be visible on our stand. I ended up needing 2 cans of spray paint to coat all of the fittings as well as the pipes in a single coat of paint. Now I layered up my paint a little bit in light sprays. You never want to go over this in a slow, hard pass, because you can get drips in your paint and those are hard to get out. So take everything in light passes and then set all the pieces aside to thoroughly dry for at least 24 hours. We don't want to ding up our brand new paint job when assembling the stand. So while those are drying, let's go ahead and assemble the balloon garland that will intertwine with the stand. Now I'm making a 10-foot long garland using 68 11-inch balloons in wild berry, orange, coral, and pink. And all of these will be tied together into quads or clusters of 8 balloons. And to do that, I'll be using my electric balloon inflator to fill my 11-inch balloons anywhere between 6 and 10 inches in diameter. By having them in an assortment of sizes, it'll give our garland a nice organic look. So go ahead and fill them and then tie them into pairs. So overlap the nozzles, wrap it around twice, and tie it together in a simple knot. I'm going to repeat this with all of my 11-inch balloons so that they're pairs of the same color, and then I'm going to take 2 of those pairs and overlap them so that the nozzles touch right in the center, and then twist 1 balloon from each pair around each other, and this will lock it together into a quad. I made 1 quad in each of my colors, but this isn't the end. If I want to make a cluster of 8 to this quad, I'm going to add 1 more pair in the same way, making sure all the nozzles are touching in the center, and then take the 2 balloons that we just added, wrapping them all the way around that quad so that they touch each other, and then twist them around each other, and that will lock all 6 balloons together into a cluster of 6. Now to this cluster of 6, we're going to add 1 more pair, and this will give us our cluster of 8. So just like we did with the last pair, wrap the balloons all the way around so that the 2 new ones that you just added are right next to each other, and then twist them around each other, locking it into a cluster of 8. Now by doing it in this way, we keep all of our nozzles tied together in one central knot, and we don't have to worry about any of the balloons popping apart. So go ahead and repeat this with all the different colors of balloons, so we've got lots of clusters and quads ready to be turned into a garland. To assemble that garland, I'm going to be tying my balloons together using a couple empty 260 balloons, but you could always use fishing line or curling ribbon if you prefer to do that. So I'm going to take the end of my 260 and put my fingers around the nozzles of my balloons and pinch that 260 right against those nozzles, stretch it tight, and wrap it in a figure-8 pattern around 2 of the balloons in that first set. And then from here, I can grab my next cluster of balloons and snug the first set of balloons up against the new set of balloons, pull that 260 right across the center of that new cluster, and then wrap it in a figure-8 pattern around 2 of the balloons in the new cluster. This will secure the balloons together nice and snugly, but the 260 balloon gives us a little bit of flexibility so we can rotate these balloons around when we go to put it on the stand. So I'm going to continue to add balloon clusters in the same way, making sure I snug them nice and tight, and then pull that 260 across the center and wrap it in a figure-8 pattern. Now once you get to the end of that 260, you may need a little bit more length, so just go ahead and grab a second 260 and tie them end to end, and keep going with assembling your balloon garland. Once you finally get to the very end of your garland that's about 10 feet long, take any remaining 260, wrap it in a figure-8 pattern a couple times around the last set of balloons, and then you can just let that go and it'll disappear into the center of the garland. Next, I'm going to create some tiny balloon clusters to accent our garland. So I've got 5-inch balloons that I'll be inflating with my hand pump to 4 pumps of air, or 4.5 inches in diameter. I'm going to inflate 8 of these all to the same size, and I'll tie them together into pairs before tying them into quads. So just like we did earlier, I'm going to tie 2 balloons together into a pair by wrapping the nozzle around twice and tying it together in a simple knot. Then once you've got 2 pairs made, we can twist them together into a quad by taking those 2 pairs, overlapping them so that the nozzles touch, twisting 2 balloons around each other, and that will lock them together into a quad. Now once we've got 2 quads of the same color, I'm going to tie those together into a little cluster using an empty 260 that I've cut in half. And this 260 will make it super easy to tie into the garland later on. So take the very end of that 260 and pinch it right against the nozzles of one of the quads, and then wrap it in a figure-8 pattern around 2 of the balloons a couple times, and that will secure it in. Now you could always tie the end of the 260 to one of the nozzles in the quad, and that would work just as well. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the second quad. So I've got my 2 quads with the 260 balloon in between them, and then I'll repeat this with more 5-inch balloons in a variety of colors to add to my garland. Once the paint is fully dried on our pipes, we can finally assemble the stand. So I'm going to make a rectangle for the base using the 24 and 36-inch pipes. And I'm going to put the 3-way fittings on both ends of the 24-inch pieces, making sure the fittings are facing the same direction before snugging them really nice and tight onto that pipe. Do the same thing for the other 24-inch pipe, and then put them across from each other with enough room to get the 36-inch piece in between them. Then insert the ends of the 36-inch pieces into the 3-way fittings, creating a rectangle on the floor with one opening in all of those fittings pointing upwards. Once you've got all 4 of those joints snugged nice and tight together, repeat this so you have 2 of these rectangles that look exactly the same, as this will be the top and the bottom of our frame. With one of these rectangles flat on the floor, I'm going to insert all 4 of my 60-inch pipes into the open fitting left on this rectangle. And I want to make sure I get these snugged really nice and tight into all the fittings so I don't have a lot of wobble in my frame. Once I've got all 4 of those attached to the bottom, I'm then going to grab the second rectangle, flip it upside down so the opening in all 4 of those fittings is facing downwards, and then insert all of my 60-inch pipes into each corner of my rectangle. This stand is about 5 feet tall and is honestly the max height I would make this stand out of 1/2-inch PVC pipe. If you wanted to make a taller version of this, I would recommend stepping up to a 3/4-inch pipe, as that will give you a much sturdier stand to build your balloon garland on. It's the inevitable fate of any painted event prop that it's going to get dinged up in transportation and setup, so I always like to carry with me a black Posca paint pen to cover up any of these mars that may happen in the paint. Now the sheen on these isn't quite exactly the same, as the pipe is satin and the paint pen is a little bit more matte, but honestly, unless you're really close to these dings, you can't tell the difference once you've covered up all the white spots with this black paint pen. So I always make sure I have a paint pen in my event setup kit ready to fix any dings. With the stand in place, we can finally intertwine our balloon garland. So I'm going to thread this through the side and then up over the top side of my rectangle. And I'll attach the balloon garland by just parting the balloons and stretching them around the frame. And the tension between two balloons will be enough to hold this garland in place. Now, if you're going to be using this somewhere it might be a little windy, you may want to take a 260 balloon and tie the balloon garland directly to the frame. From here, I'm going to add in my little accents by stretching that 260 apart between those two little clusters, wrap the 260 behind a balloon or two in the garland, and then place those little balloons anywhere where I think I need a little bit more color or texture or to fill any gaps in my garland. Once I get all of my tiny balloons in place, I'll add the final touch of this neon love sign, and I'm just going to hang it using a little bit of wire directly to the frame, which is sturdy enough to support the light. This inexpensive and easy to build PVC pipe frame is just the structure we need to build our gorgeous balloon arrangements on top of. So until the next video, stay creative everyone!